Good evening. You're on the smoking section with Stephen Helfer. Welcome. And so that I don't forget, I will wish everyone a Happy New Year at the beginning of the show, 2017. I hope it's a safe year for all of my viewers, and that all of the different difficult things that are happening in the world, many of the violent things, are lessened in the new year. But our show is concentrating on tobacco issues, and we don't stray far from that topic. So I'd like to first announce that this Saturday, Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights will be meeting at Andala Coffee House here in Central Square. And everybody is welcome. We meet at 3 p.m. generally every other Saturday to discuss actions that we will take to protect the rights of people who smoke, whether or not one has a favorable view of smoking or not. We believe that most or many of the restrictions and taxes and whatnot are grossly unfair, and we work to ameliorate that. If you're at all interested, you can go to our Facebook page, Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights, and we have an events page there so that you can tell us if you're coming. You don't need to, but if you need to get further information, Andala Coffee House, 3 p.m. this Saturday. Now, one development, it's a small development, but it goes along with the idea of act locally, think globally. And one of those things is we work here with the powers that be here in Cambridge. And what we have been pushing for is a very good idea, we think, to reduce cigarette litter. And not only to reduce cigarette litter, but to give people who smoke the kinds of confidence to know that, yes, they are being accommodated, their needs are being seen to, and that they are citizens who have rights, and one of those rights is to smoke, and if you smoke, you have a place to put your cigarette butts. So Mark McGovern of the Cambridge City Council has been kind enough to put in a policy order, or he, I believe, will be putting it in this Monday, or I guess it's already entered, but this coming Monday at the Cambridge City Council hearing at 5:30, I will be there to start the process. And a policy order is actually something whereby the City Council suggests something to the city manager, and the city manager looks it over and sees how feasible it is, and it goes back and forth a little bit. So it's just the beginning, but and the wording is kind of funny, but I thought I would read it verbatim because that's how democracy works, and sometimes it's not the most interesting, most exciting thing, but if you want to get something done, you have to work within those confines. For the most part, anyway. But this is what Mark is putting forth into the City Council minutes this Monday at 5:30 p.m. Whereas Cambridge residents have expressed concern over the cleanliness of Cambridge streets, particularly our squares, and whereas cigarette butts make up a great deal of the litter found on our sidewalks, and whereas other communities, such as the city of Salem, Massachusetts, and the Jamaica Plain neighborhood of Boston, have installed cigarette butt receptacles in highly utilized areas, such as around bus stops, city squares, and outside of restaurants, and whereas these efforts have resulted in a significant reduction in cigarette litter on city streets, therefore be it ordered that the city manager is hereby requested to work with the Department of Public Works and any other relevant departments to determine the feasibility of starting a pilot program to install such receptacles in areas in Cambridge and to report back to the City Council regarding these discussions. So this is a beginning, and it was interesting because just recently I was at the Cambridge City Hospital, and I believe it's an executive order by the Department of Health and Human Services in the state of Massachusetts that no one is supposed to smoke on the campuses of hospitals. I'm a little unclear on that, but I know that in Cambridge it is against, it is an ordinance, I guess, that forbids it. But I was very happy to see that at Cambridge City Hospital, they are having mercy on us smokers, and particularly those smokers who are in the hospital or are visiting, and they are not enforcing it, so that right on the grounds nearby the entrance, they are being there and they are enjoying their cigarettes and they are not being molested. So this would be kind of an ideal place to put one of our very attractive and welcoming cigarette butt receptacles. But of course, then again, if you do that, that is kind of normalizing smoking, making smoking is not something that's just going to disappear in a few days, so there's no reason to put cigarette butt receptacles out. And of course, the anti-smokers love to see cigarette butts everywhere on the ground because that gives them ammunition to use against us smokers and to pass outdoor ordinances and whatnot. So this is a beginning, and from what I'm told, I think Mark McGovern told me that if he wants us to speak at the City Council, he will ask us, but at this point, there is no real point in us going there. It shouldn't be a very controversial thing, but sometimes to get small things done can be very difficult. The City of Cambridge, of course, has a lot of problems, and the biggest problem to most people's eyes is housing, and we have so many homeless people. And of course, we here in Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights know that many homeless people smoke, so this would be something that would be very helpful to them, and again, something that would renormalize smoking in our eyes. Now, every week I'm going to put on a Smoker of the Week, and we usually put this on our Facebook page, but we may do both. And this is a centenarian smoker, in fact, something that is called a supercentenarian. Let's see if I can pull it up, get my technical skills here working at CCTV, and we'll go right here. And this gentleman's name is, if I have get my paper here, let's see. Oh, yes, here we are. John McMorran. And this photo was taken around, I think around the year 2000. And if you can read his cap, he's 111 years old there. And he died in 2003, a couple of years later, at the age of 113. So he is what is called a supercentenarian. That is someone who lives beyond the age of 110. And his age has been verified by a group called the Gerontology Research Group, which is from University of California, Los Angeles, because they want to be very sure that if someone says he's 110 or 105 or 100, that in point of fact that can be documented. In this case it was. And Mr. McMorran is the 5th oldest man who has reached the oldest years, the most years in history. So there have only been 4 other men who have reached this age or beyond this age. And when he was interviewed at the age of 111, he said that He drank a cup of coffee before every meal, and he stayed away from cheap whiskey. But according to his relatives, at least in the newspaper article I read in the Los Angeles Times, he actually had quit drinking in his 50s, but he continued chewing tobacco, smoking a pipe, or smoking a pack of cigarettes a day until the age of 97. So Mr. McMorran, who lived to the age of 113, smoked and used tobacco until the age of 97. So we here want people to know that simply because you smoke, it may not be anywhere near as dangerous as people are led to believe. Certainly in Mr. McMorran's case, smoking to the age of 97 and living to the age of 113 is quite something. And again, there are so very few non-smokers who reach anywhere near that age. Now, let's see if we can get back to me. And there I am. Last week, I read a letter from Audrey Silk, who is the founder and probably the greatest, or let's say the most active smokers' rights activist in the country, if not the world. And she has a website, and she runs an organization called New York City Clash, which is citizens lobbying against smoker harassment. And Audrey wrote a really fine letter to President-elect Donald Trump, his Vice President-elect Pence. I can't remember his first name. Let me see if I got it here. Getting my papers all mixed up here as usual. And also to the Honorable Tom Price, who is a congressman who is probably going to be nominated to be in the Department of Health and Human Services. And last week I read this letter, and I know reading letters is probably not the most interesting way to spend this show, but I thought this was such a good letter that I am going to read it again. I did edit it a bit, make it a little bit shorter, and make it some of the things, like Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights takes no side in terms of Republicans or Democrats or Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. But it does so happen that the Trump transition team and the president-elect have said that they are going to reduce regulations, to reduce the number of regulations, not only on business, well, primarily on businesses, but so we would like them to reduce restrictions on smoking and regulations on smokers, regulations on businesses who depend on smokers, such as bars and restaurants and tobacco shops, cigar manufacturers, and even the evil tobacco industry, which of course everybody thinks is so evil. But this letter was very well written, and so I'm going to read it again, and it goes, "Dear Mr. President-elect, we are pleased to have elected to our White House two men who believe in smaller and less intrusive government. This not only applies to business and industry, but to people. We hope that the burdens you've both promised to lift off of industry in pursuit of economic freedom will be lifted off of the people as well in pursuit of personal freedom. We ask that you rescind the final rule, smoke-free public housing, that was imposed by the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Department. You don't have to have a favorable view of smoking to be against what the New York Observer's editors describe as possibly, quote, the most far-reaching, intrusive, and overreaching regulation of the last years, end of quote. According to the Observer, it is both far-reaching, because it assaults people in the privacy of their homes, and overreaching because it is fraught with substantial constitutional questions. Imagine an elderly or disabled veteran being told by a federal agency that he can't enjoy a cigar in his own home, that he'd have to get dressed, make it downstairs, and then 25 feet from the building, or more, since the Housing and Urban Development Rule allows any public housing authority to extend it into the cold, heat, or rain. In 2013, President Obama honored the nation's oldest veteran, Richard Overton, in front of thousands in Washington, D.C. on Veterans Day. We've got a phone call. I will take it, and then I will continue this letter. Let's see if I can get my phone thing here. You're on the smoking section. Oh boy, let's see. You're on the smoking section.
Hey Steve, it's David.
David, how are you? Thank you for calling. Evidently you got...
TV's not working, so I'm not picking you up, but I've got you on the phone.
You got my email.
Yes.
Well, thank you for calling. What do you think of Councilor McGovern responding so nicely to our requests?
That's great. I'm thrilled. That's great.
Are you interested in going to the City Council hearing on Monday?
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. That's good. So now your television isn't working?
No, I'm not getting a signal. But are you alone tonight?
I am alone.
Oh, well, you know, I wanted to help you fill up your time.
Thank you very much. Killing dead air is what it's called, right?
I definitely. I'm glad he responded. You know, I think he's on our side.
Well, at least in this issue, I think, David, that because we spoke to the City Council and they heard things, they saw a perspective on smoking and those of us who like to smoke that they have never seen or heard before. And I think that influenced them. And I don't think it made them move to our side, but I think they were completely, they were influenced to some degree.
Yeah. So, so we're going to have to do. We'll have to do some more legwork with the city now. That'll be good.
Keep us busy. Now, are you going to be able to get to Andala on Saturday?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, if you have time, please go to our Facebook events page and indicate that you're going to attend, because right now, so far, I'm the only person who's indicated, I think I'm the only person who's indicated he's going to attend.
All right, I'll do that.
All right, thank you very much, David.
All right.
Good night.
Bye.
One of our very stalwart members in Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights, and like me, he's delighted that Councilor McGovern has started to work with us in this small but somewhat significant project. Okay, well, I'm going to get back to this letter. So Obama told the crowd that Richard Overton's service on the battlefield was not always matched by the respect that he deserved at home. Well, this veteran also loves his cigar, enjoying up to 12 of them a day. Mr. Overton is now 110 years old, another supercentenarian. What respect at home are veterans like him receiving from the Department of Housing and Urban Development when they are being kicked out of their homes, either for a smoke break or for good if they're evicted for being unable to comply? HUD's disregard for the well-being of residents like Mr. Overton indicates that this smoking ban is not about health. If someone who wants to smoke falls down the stairs, catches pneumonia, or becomes depressed, then it's clear the only thing this rule is about is HUD's complicity in anti-smoking social engineering. Quit smoking at the point of a rule-making gun is the real motivation behind this rule. Claiming smoking in one apartment harms non-smokers in another is totally unproven. Anti-smokers call such bans the tobacco endgame. It's more a liberty endgame, whereby to denormalize smoking, they denormalize liberty itself. Our objection to this restriction is not based on a right to smoke. At stake is the right of any citizen to be left alone to engage in a legal activity in the privacy of his own home. Vice President-elect Pence once warned, "A government big enough to go after smokers is big enough to go after you." We have no objection to government and health groups advising against smoking and offering stop smoking assistance to those who seek it. But a federal agency sidesteps Congress and states' rights and breaks down citizens' front doors to rip cigarettes out of their hands is not advice, it is tyranny. Please rescind this rule. Audrey Silk, founder, New York City Clash. Well, I thought that was just such a good letter. I wanted to give myself another chance to read it a little better than I did last time. I do admit to having edited it somewhat, shortening it, and also making sure that Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights is clear, that we are not endorsing any candidate for president, but we are endorsing the idea that of personal liberty and that smokers are people too. Now, along that line, on our Facebook page, we posted a form that can be filled out and will go to the website of the what is called the Congressional Freedom Caucus, whereby anyone can indicate what rules and what regulations he or she would like to see rescinded. And we had this on our Facebook page, and it goes to the leader of the Freedom Caucus is a congressman, a Republican congressman named Mark Meadows. And I was a little unclear how to fill it out, although I did fill it out, and I think it did go in successfully. But just today I gave the congressman's office a call, and in filling this out, the information that we included in our Facebook page has to be put in the first line of the form, and it will all fit in the first line. It didn't appear to me that it would, but I spoke to an assistant at the congressman's office today, and she was very clear that all of that information can go in. So I hope that perhaps we will send out a blast with this information on it for everybody, and that people will take this action, which is a small action, but every political action, no matter how small, has consequences. So it's pretty easy to fill out, and I got the information, so I'm pretty sure how to do it. And I hope we will get a lot of people to do it. I have done it so far, and I assume, and I'm sure that Emily, our Facebook directress, has put it out so far. But when we send out this blast, we will have all the information in it. Now, some people think that sending an email to your elected representative or to a group of representatives there's so many people sending emails that it doesn't make any difference, but in fact it does make a huge difference, and it only takes a second. So it's not, even if you look at the mathematics of it, the amount of effort it takes, the effort is very, very small. So it just takes a few seconds. But if enough people do this, this is an opportunity. And I think a lot of people are very cynical about what can be done in government, or how one can influence the government. But I think a lot of this cynicism is really unfounded, and particularly like if you work in a small city like the city of Cambridge and you are willing to show up at public hearings, email your city councilors, get a petition going, you can make a big difference. And whereas you can't make a big difference in a country of 330 million people, you can make a small difference, and each small difference is incremental. So I certainly encourage everyone, and I hope that this Saturday at Andala, we will meet the owner of Andala. Sammy is very interested in perhaps starting a coffee house where people can enjoy not just hookah, but cigars and cigarettes. So he has asked Cambridge Citizens for Smokers' Rights to help him, and while it is against the city ordinance, there may be a way either through litigation or again, as my good friend Bill Cunningham says, that anything, any law or any ordinance put into place can be taken out of place. It all depends on how much people are willing to work and not allow themselves to get discouraged. Well, again, I'll wish everybody a very happy new year. And of course, this year we're probably going to see Cuban cigars coming to the United States. And I think that will not only benefit our country, mellow people out a bit, provide them some enjoyment, but be very good for the people of Cuba. Right now, their cigar industry is a little behind the times, so they'll have some catching up to do. Thanks for watching The Smoking Section every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Good night.